Hey friends, it's Robin. Welcome to my channel. It has been a minute since you've seen my face. I originally wanted to make my first video back a reset video so that I could talk in detail about where I've been, give you a little life update. But my May reset is actually not going to go up until next week, and I really still wanted to do a TBR and a new releases video. So instead, we're going to do two sit-down videos, and then next week you will get my May reset where I share my life updates and where I've been and what this channel is going to look like moving forward content-wise. And then you'll also get to see all of the chaos and the reason why the reset got pushed back. Today we're gonna do my May TBR. I'm so excited to be back making videos, so hopefully you're gonna see my face a little bit more. If you've never seen one of my TBR posts before, you probably haven't seen one this year because I think I only did a January one, but I do have a jar here with a bunch of prompts in it. I cannot tell you what these prompts are anymore. I don't remember what the prompts are, so we're really gonna be in this together. I should probably have my laptop handy, but I don't. I also do have a kitten, so if you hear tiny little meows, yeah, this is baby Zoe. You'll get to hear more about her in that reset as well, but she is extremely talkative, and if she sees me, she needs to be on me. Otherwise, she cries. So let's get right into it. I do have two physical books here. I have a list of things that I want to get to. The main theme for actually all of April, and this is carrying into May, is arcs. With me being gone, reading also didn't really happen. Sorry for the scratch now. And so I have fallen terribly behind on arcs. So my main goal this spring has been catch up as much as possible. So in April, I think I'm on book 12, and 11 of those 12 were arcs. I'm trying to make progress, and that is pretty much going to be the theme of May as well. I do have a couple of other things on here that I might pick from, but fingers crossed we can do pretty much exclusively arcs. For a while, I was doing 12 prompts because I was reading like 20 books a month. Like I said, I'm at like 11 and a half books right now in April. It is the last day of April, so I really needed to get this filmed. And so I'm not gonna do 12. I think I'm gonna do 10. Hopefully that's a good idea. My reading has slowly picked up as the month has gone, so I'm feeling confident. Let's pick our first prompt for May's TBR. And this one is to read a book with a beautiful cover. I think for this one, I'm gonna go When I Think of You by Maya Ariel. This is a book that I got through Penguin Random House Audio, and I actually do now have an arc of it on NetGalley. I could have sworn I had an arc of this on NetGalley, and apparently I just never downloaded it, so I downloaded it. So now I have both an e-arc and an audio copy of this. I think that this is a romance between like an actress and another famous person. I'm not 100%. This was one of those books that kept popping on and off my TBR because I don't typically love books about famous people, but this cover is so beautiful, and every single time I saw it, I wanted to read it. So we're gonna give it a try. Hopefully I really like it. Prompt number 2. Let's go with this one. Is that multiple? That's multiple. I think that's just one. Prompt number 2 is to add one prompt. I think there's only one of these in here, but that means that I am upping it to 11. So fingers crossed that May does, in fact, go really well. Prompt number 2, again, is this one. And this is to read a book from an author that I already love, which is easy because I'm going to put You Should Be So Lucky by Cat Sebastian on this TBR. This is the next book. It's not listed as a series, but I'm almost positive that this is set in the same world as We Could Be So Good. In fact, I think like one of the heroes works for like the newspaper, but this one is a baseball romance, and I want to say one of our heroes is a reporter, and he isn't typically a sports reporter. I think he's like an arts or something reporter. And for whatever reason, he gets roped into covering the sports section at this time. And I think our baseball hero is going through like a big slump, and they are trying to revive his image. a little bit. And so he's doing this one-on-one series with this reporter, and they fall in love. This is also historical. I'm not 100% on when this one is set. We Could Be So Good was in the 50s. This might be the 60s. I love Cat Sebastian's historical romances. I love that they're set in like such different time periods. Like, she does not stick to a specific historical time period like a lot of other historical authors. Prompt number 3. Prompt number 3 is to read a novella. I don't think I have a novella arc. I think I only have one novella on this list. Fairly Certain Haven by Claire Kent is pretty short. I think that this is under 200 pages. So that's what we're going to roll with because I don't feel like getting my computer to double check that. This is the first full-length book in the Kindled series. I say full-length because technically the only full-length book is the prequel book, which was a favorite book of mine at the end of last year. I loved this. I gave it 5 stars. It was wonderful. And I really want to continue on with this series. And I think all of the books like in this series are under 200 pages. And I desperately want to continue with it. So prompt number 4, let's go with this. That's multiple. Let's go with that one. This one is a cover that I don't love. I think I'm going to go with Flirty Little Secret by Jessica Lepe. This is a late arc. I want to say that this one came out February or March. I can't 100% remember. This cover does literally nothing for me. I think it does a decent job of conveying the type of story that is going to be like online messagey because they have an online communication, but I don't think the cover is particularly eye-catching or anything like that. The synopsis, on the other hand, sounds fantastic. We're following, I think, 2 teachers, and the heroine has some issues with her confidence. I want to say that this one was compared to Abbott Elementary, if I'm remembering. And she has a lot of confidence issues at school, but she has this online personality where she runs this account where she gives advice to people. And on there, she is very confident and like sure of herself. And she strikes up a conversation with this guy who actually happens to be one of the new teachers at her school. He knows who she is at some point, and she has no idea who he is. And that is kind of the, I'm going to say, conflict in this book. Excited about it. I've heard some mixed things. Some people really love it. Some people just enjoyed it. But I haven't heard anyone say that they really disliked it. So I feel like this is going to be an easy one to pick up and like know that I'm going to, at the very least, have a good time reading it. Prompt number 5, this one. I folded these in a way that they just tend to get stuck together every single time. And this one is to read a historical. Historical is not like one of my most preferred genres, but I do always end up with a decent amount of them on my TBR, partly because I don't pick them up that much. So for this one, the only other one that I had on my list is The Love Remedy by Elizabeth Everett. I completely forgot I owned a physical copy of this. This was sent to me by Berkeley. This is an author that I have read from before. I'm pretty sure her first book was following like this group of women scientists. I didn't end up continuing on with that series, but I was very interested in the synopsis of this one, and I didn't dislike that first book. It just wasn't a favorite, and since historical isn't a genre that I reach for very often, it takes quite a lot for a book to kind of, like a series, to stay on my TBR. But I am really interested in this one since this is now, I think, like her 4th book. So I'm excited to see how her writing has changed. It says a Victorian apothecary hires a stoic private investigator to protect her business. They learn there's only one way to treat true love with a happily ever after. It's a late arc. I need to get it at least like off my TBR. All of these, my goal is to at least get them off my TBR, even if I DNF it. For 6. So a book that is not a romance. Do I have any on here? I didn't have this one written down, but I do have this book in quite a few different places, and that is Island Witch by Amanda Giatissa. And this is one of my 5-star predictions for 2024. That's the year that it is. And so I do need to get this one read. And I do have it on audio as well as a physical copy, I believe. I think I have it through Penguin Penguin Random House Audio as well. I know very little about this one other than it's a Sri Lankan folk horror about a heroine who is being kind of shunned by her community, and she is getting revenge on the people who are bullying her, I believe. There's something about this. I think it was called like gothic paranormal horror in the vein of Alexis Henderson. And Alexis Henderson is my favorite horror author. So prompt number 7 is this one. Is that one? That's one. Prompt number 7 is to read a book with a one-word title. And I know exactly what I'm going to go for this. I'm going to reread Bewitched by Laura Thalassa because Bespelled comes out right at the end of May, and I want to reread this one before going into it because it's been a year since I've read this, and I remember it being a very fast read. This is the first book in a fantasy series. I want to say it's a trilogy, but I could be totally making that up. This first book is following a heroine who desperately wants to be part of this coven, which is essentially like a university for witches, but she has this ability where every time she uses her magic, she loses her memories. And so the coven is very reluctant to admit her to this coven. And so they tell her she needs to complete this mission. She needs to go on this trip and find a familiar and all of this stuff. And when she does that, is on an airplane and the airplane crashes and she uses her abilities to stop the plane crash, ends up losing her memories like leading up to that flight. And now she is stuck in the jungle and she hears a voice and she starts wandering through the jungle. She finds her familiar, she finds the voice, and it is this guy who is insisting that she is his wife who trapped him in this temple in the first place. He's a god. He follows her back to the coven, and there is mystery involved, not only at the coven, but between the two of them. There's a lot of angst. This is very slow burn. They do not get together in this first book, but there is so much sexual tension, and it is just a really, really good time. This feels like a very 2024 fantasy romance. It is right in line with all of the other fantasy romances that have blown up in the last year or so. I had a really good time with it, and I'm excited to see where book 2 goes because the ending of this book was ridiculous and so much fun. But I want to reread it so that the details are fresh in my brain. Hopefully I can get the sequel on here. That would be ideal. That's multiples. So this is prompt number 8, right? That's what I said. Yeah. Prompt number 8 is a book with an illustrated cover, which is like all books at this point. I'm just going to go with this last arc that I have here, which is Looking for Love in All of the Haunted Places by Claire Kahn. Claire Kahn wrote The Romantic Agenda, I believe, which I didn't end up reading, but I still would like to at some point because it is an ace romance. And we love that. This one is a paranormal romance. I'm assuming that this is actually paranormal. I don't know that for sure, but it seems like it's going to actually be paranormal. We're following a heroine who supposedly can see and deal with the supernatural, and she is kind of down on her luck, and she gets invited to do this like show, this television show, where they are going to stay inside of this like famously haunted house and try to solve, I assume, the supernatural mysteries of this house. And one of the other guys on the show is a scientist who does not believe in the supernatural. And the two of them obviously have a lot of chemistry on this show and need to work together to do something. I already forgot what prompt we're on. Prompt number 9. This one, that's one. Prompt number 9 is to read a sapphic romance. The one that I currently have on my list is Here We Go Again by Alison Cochrane. And this is the latest book from the author who wrote The Charm Offensive and Kiss Her Once for Me. And I gave both of those, I think, like a 4.5 or 5 star. And this is a road trip romance, which is part of the reason why I haven't read it yet, because this book did come out, I think, in early April. I don't typically love road trip romances, but if anyone can pull it off, it's going to be Alison Cochrane. I believe we're following these two women who were friends at some point. They had a falling out. They went their separate ways, and they end up coming back together because their college mentor is passing away and they want to take one final road trip. The two of them agree to help, and now they are on this trip together and working through what happened and falling in love. That's all I know about it. I have heard very, very little to nothing about this book, so I have no idea if people are liking it. Prompt number 10, which is unfortunately not our last one. Thanks, Jar. A book with an animal on the cover. Of course, I'm out of physical books, so I'm trying to remember what these covers look like. All right, I had to go take a look at the covers because I couldn't remember what any of them looked like, but Bespelled by Laura Thalassa does have a giant dragonfly on it, so we're gonna go with that. Like I said, this is the sequel to Bewitched. I don't want to talk about the plot because it would obviously spoil the first book, plus I actually don't know what the plot is. I tend to not read the plots of sequels because I already know I'm going to read the sequel. Prompt 11. All right, I forgot my piece of paper. So last prompt. I don't know why I'm nervous. This one is to read a backlist title. I don't have rules for what backlist means. I guess for this one, I will go with Clueless Puckboy by Eden Finley and Saxon James. This is a book that came out this year, so I'm sure someone's gonna be like, that's not a backlist title. But they have released like 4 or 5 books since this book, so I'm gonna count it anyways. This is the next book in the Puck Boys, I think that's what it's called, the series. I am very nearly done with their backlist. I think I only have 3 books left to go after this one. Obviously, they're gonna release another one before I finish because they write books at crazy rates, but I don't know who this one follows. It follows a bunch of hockey players. They're all queer romances. This is one of the players, I'm sure, from the Queer Collective. I don't remember who it is. It doesn't matter, in all honesty. I'll listen to this one on audio, but that is going to be it for my May TBR. I do have other arcs and things that I need to get to, but I think I did a pretty good job of getting my quote-unquote necessary TBR onto here. Let me know what you are reading in May, what your reading plans look like. Let me know if you are planning to pick up any of these books. Like I said at the beginning of this video, my May new releases is going to be coming out very shortly. In fact, I'm going to film that as soon as I'm done here, so hopefully you'll be seeing more of me throughout the month of May, and keep your eyes peeled for that reset where you can hear all about my life and see what's been going on. Thank you all so much for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, I will see you in my next video. Bye.